This morning, we are following an unfolding story in Paris. Gunmen carrying automatic weapons attacked a newspaper with a history of angering Muslims. At least 11 people are dead. France's president calls it a terrorist attack.
The target was the office of a satirical weekly called Charlie Hebdo. Clarissa Ward is tracking developments from London. Clarissa, good morning.
Good morning. Well, the French President Francois Hollande arrived at the scene of the attack and condemned the cowardly killings. He said that Paris has been placed now on high alert as authorities try to catch the culprits. And he also said that police in Paris have managed to thwart several terrorist attacks recently. Now, police are confirming that at least 11 people are dead and 10 wounded, 4 of them critically, after that attack on a satirical weekly magazine. One journalist who witnessed the attack reported that 2 hooded men entered the building with automatic weapons and opened fire. The attackers reportedly then fled the scene, and they have not yet been apprehended. Now, this magazine, Charlie Hebdo, is full of caricatures, often incendiary. In 2011, their offices were firebombed after they published a spoof issue that was, quote, guest edited by the Prophet Muhammad. They received threats again in 2012 after publishing caricatures of the Prophet. At this stage, no one has claimed responsibility for this attack, but we have seen ISIS videos featuring French fighters calling on fellow French Muslims to launch attacks in France, and we've also seen ISIS repeatedly call for so-called lone wolf attacks, where they've said to their followers, you don't need to be in touch with or officially part of a terror group to pick up a gun or a knife or a car or whatever you have at your disposal that can be used as a deadly weapon against the kuffar or non-believers. Gail?
All right, Clarissa, very frightening story. Thank you. CBS News producer Elaine Cobbe is in Paris at this hour. She joins us on the telephone. Elaine, good morning. What can you tell us?
Police say they're looking for 2 or 3 armed men now after this morning's attack. The attack happened mid-morning here when the 2 men, at least possibly 3, armed and masked men, walked into the headquarters of Charlie Hebdo magazine in central Paris. They opened fire in the hallway, killing people, and what one eyewitness said was particularly worrying was that they started asking for people by their names. They believed that meant it was a well-organized attack, that they had specific targets, and the way they got away in a car without being apprehended by the police around the building, because Charlie Hebdo has been one of the buildings where security has been beefed up in recent times because of increased threats.
Elaine, has anyone taken credit for it so far?
So far, nobody has. It was them. There have been threats on Charlie Hebdo magazine by various Islamic groups or those claiming to be Islamic militants, but for the moment, nobody has said they did it, and the police say they are looking at all angles.
Elaine, what can you tell us about this magazine?
Charlie is a satirical magazine that makes its name by being provocative. When other publications were shying away from those famous cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad, they said, we are going to print them all, and they had a special supplement. They have done that on several occasions, and they say they will not be stopped. So it has been firebombed, it's received threats, and it had increased police security, as I said.
Elaine, what's the biggest concern in France right now? I understand the country is on a state of alert.
The country's on a very high state of alert, and there are increased police and military presences at sensitive sites such as train stations, airports, schools, synagogues, and some of the media. There have been several attacks averted, according to President Francois Hollande, over recent weeks, as France has seen quite an increase in the threats to the country. It is, of course...
I think we've lost Elaine on that phone from Paris. We go now to a CBS News security consultant, Mike Morell. He's a former deputy CIA director. Mike, good morning.
Good morning, Charlie.
So what can you say about this from the sources that you have and what we know so far?
So, Charlie, this is the worst terrorist attack in Europe since the attacks in London in July of 2005. We haven't lost this many people since that attack. The motive here is absolutely clear, trying to shut down a media organization that lampooned the Prophet Muhammad. So no doubt in my mind this is terrorism. What we have to figure out here is the perpetrators and whether they were self-radicalized or whether they were individuals who fought in Syria and Iraq and came back, or whether they were actually directed by ISIS or by Al-Qaeda. So a lot to figure out here, but this is clearly a terrorist attack and one of the worst we've seen in a long time.
President Hollande is having an emergency cabinet meeting this afternoon in Paris. What can a government do in response? What will the options for it?
Well, the two most important things, Charlie, are number one, to find the perpetrators, and number two is to kind of buckle down, increase your defenses, because one of the things that happens in these kind of situations are copycat attacks. And you need to worry about copycat attacks not only in France, but in the rest of the world, and I would even say in the broader world to include the United States. So that's something that people are going to have to worry about in the next several days.
All right, Mike Morell, thank you for joining us. We'll continue to bring you updates on this breaking story as they come into us.